So in conclusion, what can we say? We can say that with respect to any chemical reaction, if delta G is less than 0, the reaction will occur spontaneously. That means delta G must have a negative value. If delta G has a positive value, that is it is greater than 0, the reaction will not be spontaneous. It will not occur spontaneously. And if delta G is equal to 0, then the reaction is in equilibrium, or it is an equilibrium reaction. Now, here is a question which you can think over. Slaking of lime is an exothermic process with a very large amount of heat evolved. There is also hissing noise that comes along with this reaction. The entropy of the reaction reduces, as we can see in the equation, CaO plus H2O giving you CaOH twice. Here 2 molecules you can see, here there is only 1. Yet, this is a spontaneous process, non-reversible reaction. Can you explain why?
So in Gibbs free energy, we learned about the parameters considered defining Gibbs free energy were delta H and delta Ts, that is enthalpy change as well as entropy change. But what were the parameters in the system? The system was closed and the system has available energy to do non-PV work. What do you mean by non-PV work? It can be of different types, the electrical work, then you have got the work against gravity, you have got the shaft work, the work against friction and the magnetic work, and remaining so many more. Now, look at the equation of Gibbs free energy change. It involves the terms of changes in enthalpy and entropy delta H and delta S respectively. From the definition of enthalpy, we have H is equal to U plus PV. For a small change in enthalpy, the corresponding changes are noted as dH is equal to du plus PdV, the temperature and the pressure remaining constant. By the first law of thermodynamics, small change in internal energy du is given by du is equal to dq minus PdV. dH is equal to dq minus PdV plus PdV. If you substitute this value of du in the equation for dH, here you get this part becomes du and you have here PdV as usual. Now, what we can see here, dq minus PdV, and then we had here du as dq minus PdV, which we put here, and then we had here PdV, that is here. Now, what do we see? dH is equal to dq reversible. dg, that is the change in the free energy, is then equal to dH minus TdS, and dg is therefore equal to dq reversible minus TdS. How? Because we saw dH is equal to here dq, and if the process is reversible, we have dH is equal to dq reversible, because PdV and PdV cancels over here, minus PdV plus PdV. So, from this equation, it becomes clear that delta G does not involve any PV work. Yet, the available energy at constant temperature and pressure can be used to do other work which is of non-PV type. For example, it may involve the work done by a shaft that connects two rotating bodies or generating voltage, that is electrical work. But all this we considered for a constant temperature and constant pressure condition. What about the constant temperature and constant volume conditions? Will there be any free energy that will be available for doing non-PV work then? The answer is yes, and that is the Helmholtz free energy, which is denoted by capital A. A is equal to U minus Ts. Remember, G was equal to H minus Ts. So, that is actually now the other type of free energy with constant temperature and constant volume condition, which we will do much later in thermodynamics. Before that, let's study the third law of thermodynamics. It states that the entropy of a perfect crystal is 0 at absolute 0. Yet, the third law has some important contribution in understanding the behavior of solids at their temperature as their temperature decreases. This third law of thermodynamics is called the Nernst law. It is often found to be useful in calculating the absolute value of entropy as S absolute is equal to integration between limits 0 to capital T, that is the absolute temperature. 0 is again the absolute 0 of dq reversible upon T with respect to dt. After the third law, we then learn the zeroth law of thermodynamics. It states that if two thermodynamic systems are each in thermal equilibrium with the third one, then they are in thermal equilibrium with each other. That is, if A is in thermal equilibrium with B and A is brought in contact with another system C, and if it reaches thermal equilibrium with C, then B will also be in thermal equilibrium with C. So, A and B are in thermal equilibrium, C is in thermal equilibrium with A. Now, A, B, C are all in thermal equilibrium. That means they are all at a constant temperature. The easiest way to understand the third law is to consider the refrigerator in our homes. Here we have the zeroth law. The easiest way to understand the zeroth law is to consider the refrigerator in our homes. If we keep cooked food well covered in it, and after some time we can open our refrigerator and observe that the cooked food has the same temperature as the remaining vegetables or the eggs or the soft drinks that were already there in it. We have now come to the end of this topic, much within the scope of our higher secondary science. But one question may still haunt you. Are all the laws of thermodynamics obeyed in nature, or are there still more mysteries to be unearthed related to the different energy changes? The black hole is one such area of concern that still baffles most science students.